I cannot believe that I am saying this because I cannot believe how fast and far time has flown this season. But welcome to the final regular season edition of State Champs Extra Point, presented by Lawrence Technological University. Need to let you know dozens of world-class undergraduate programs and just a ton of NAIA varsity athletic sports offered at Lawrence Tech, exclusive internship opportunities right here at State Champs. So if you want to check out LTU, go to ltu.edu. If you want to recruit yourself, at ltuathletics.com. Okay, this show is also brought to you in partnership with our friends at Bally Sports Detroit. So say hello to these friends. We have Sydney Cariel and we have Devin Gardner. How you guys doing?
Yes, I'm doing great.
Like you said, I can't believe we're already in week 9. I actually had to go and double check and physically count the weeks. It's going by so fast. That's the sad part about high school football. It goes by too fast.
It is true. But again, incredible games that we got to see this past weekend. And of course, Selection Sunday, and then it's the playoffs. And you know, Devin, as a former Michigan high school quarterback, that there is nothing greater than getting ready for the postseason.
Oh, yeah, there's nothing like it. You know, it's crazy. I never knew about Selection Sunday because, I was either we weren't getting the playoffs at UAD, there's no reason. Right. I didn't even know that existed. Right. And at Inkster, it's I know we're going to the playoffs. I never knew about, the sitting around watching.
Did you guys do that?
No, we didn't do it. I had no idea about Selection Sunday until I got a little older. But getting ready for the playoffs is so much different. And in Michigan, I think it's so cool because I think it's much closer to the next level than a lot of places like California and in the South because it's always warm, right? It stays warm. And you have to change the way you play football here in Michigan, right? It gets really, really cold, and you might get a couple days where it's nice and sunny, but for the most part, it gets pretty cold, and football has to change. You remember we had that game at Inkster against Chelsea where it was freezing cold, and I threw for one completion, I think, 155 yards of rushing, you know what I mean? But you have to change the way you play, and the teams that are the healthiest and the teams that find a way to win are the ones that are usually successful.
Yeah, well, we talked about that. Your camera froze, right?
My camera froze.
That is
physically froze.
It gets
As
cold,
I was
baby.
preparing to interview this braced-filled man after the game, after that exciting win.
Hearing the weather was so bad is already giving me goosebumps.
I know.
It's pretty cold. It's pretty cold out right now, I can tell you that. I wore a very large coat.
Yes, but this weekend it will get warmer apparently.
Yeah, it's going to be beautiful.
But before we jump ahead to those games coming up this weekend, we got to talk about last week because there were a lot of big games. So let's dive into our takeaways sponsored by Figer Law. Devin, we'll start with you. A West Bloomfield team that we are learning more and more about each week.
Yeah, I mean, the West Bloomfield Southfield A&T game did not disappoint. Obviously, there was a big injury in the game and a lot of things going on. It was so much, right? You got James Franklin flying in on a helicopter coming to the game. But one thing I want to talk about in that game is when it kind of flipped and the game was turned on its head. I'm comfortable in saying that I think I saw, I'm not going to say the absolute best, but one of the best football plays, all-encompassing, that I've ever seen. All right, so set the scene here. Yeah. Samaj Morgan, right, he's in the game as a quarterback. Obviously, we know he was going to play some quarterback. But to this point in the game, right before half, he has a drive, but he hasn't really thrown the ball. He's done some wildcat stuff, some jet sweep stuff. Right. He hasn't really been a quarterback. Gets into this final drive before the half. The score is 21-14. And he's driving down, throwing passes, doing his deal, and then they get to somehow a fourth down, right? He's throwing the ball well and everything. They drive him down fairly close enough to try to attempt a field goal, and then they go to fourth down, right? And so Coach Grice's kick field goal, sends the guys out. He's like, no. Fans him off. I'm telling you, it's like a 25-second argument between Samaj Morgan and Coach Grice of if we're going to kick a field goal or not. All right, so at the time, I'm sitting and I'm watching, and I'm thinking, okay, I don't like it. I don't like a player, doing that or whatever the case may be. And I always thought back to, would I do that with Coach Carter? We won't do that because we go for it anyway. We don't kick. Right. So we would have never had to have that conversation. But I'm watching this exchange and Samaj Morgan is adamant about we are not kicking a field goal, right? And so he finally he snatches the snapper off, the kicker lines up receiver, and then Grice essentially had to concede and say, well, we're going to get a penalty and we're not going to be kicking anyway. Gets the kicker off the field, and he proceeds to hike the ball on fourth down, run around, throw a touchdown. Most amazing play I've ever, because I don't think I would have had the cojones to do that in that situation. Right. And then when you take a step back and think about it, their snapper had been bad all day. That kick was going to get blocked and ran back for a touchdown. The momentum would have changed, and that game would have looked vastly different. Southfield would have got the ball coming out of halftime. Yeah. They would have made it 21-21 before half, 28-21. You don't know what can happen after that point. And so one of the greatest plays I've seen, and you saw a lot of why. And then later in the game, he had a pick six. Yeah. That was amazing. Yeah. You saw exactly why he's going to University of Michigan, and he's going to fit right in with that attitude and that ability to deliver. That's the most important part. Yeah. If you do that, you have to deliver. He delivered, and it was an amazing game.
Yeah, wow. That really shows his leadership out there and trusting not just only himself.
Look at me.
Yeah.
I'm the coach now.
Oh, yeah. His post-game interview was hilarious.
Wow.
You know,
it was crazy.
Like must-see TV. He's got the turnover chain.
Oh, man.
I mean, you know, and again, but he walks the walk.
Yeah.
And he has been incredible. And something that granted, Donovan Edwards was such an explosive playmaker, it can take over a game, but he is something different.
Yeah.
And
especially since he contributes on defense as well.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So really you can put him in any position. So we're going to see what West Bloomfield does this season. And if he continues to play, he's going to elevate everyone.
I mean, they've proven that they can win a championship with the Wildcat, right? They've proven that. And so moving forward, I mean, I'm sure they'll get their quarterback back at some point. But if they don't, I don't see how we can count West Bloomfield out because they've done it.
They've just got that hump called Rochester Adams.
Oh, man. Hopefully they'll have to see him.
If they can get over that hump, I see clear skies.
That was I was there for that one. That was a good game. But I also think that shows that he trusts not only himself but his teammates too.
Oh, without question. Yeah.
That's good to know moving forward, especially as we're in this home stretch of the season. But another team that we really are starting to find out who they are. That was the theme last week. We'll carry it over into this week. Yeah. But Dexter, they had a tough test last week, and they got the job done. What do you think of this Dexter team, Lorne?
Yeah, so one of the greatest experiences in high school football, one of the greatest things that we've been able to do for as long as we've been able to do it, is when you see something that hasn't happened to a team or a community in 59 years, which is what took place in Dexter last weekend. So the Dreadnoughts won a conference championship in football, and that just doesn't happen.
Unbelievable.
You know, and they've been just riding this wave of momentum all season. Of course, this was the big matchup between Dexter and Saline. We had Mr. Football Cole Cabana, Mr. Football CJ Carr going head-to-head.
The Gardner 5 Cole Cabana as well.
Yes, that's right. And you know what? It was a fabulous game. For those who haven't seen the highlights, you should search them out because it really was a great game from both teams. Two teams, toe-to-toe, start to finish. But in the end, Dexter, as they've done all season, have found a way. Now, the Mr. Football candidate, Cole Cabana, was the difference maker really in this game in terms of points on the board. The Dreads defense made the big plays when they needed it. We want to shout out Michigan State tight end commit Colin Parachak, who on defense, 10 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 1 sack. Dexter has jumped into our top 10 now in our state rankings. They are now 8-0, and oh yes, there is another streak on the line this week as they complete the regular season. It's been 26 years since the Dexter Dreadnoughts have defeated Chelsea. Wow. So they have got a crack at more history this week.
See, I told you guys. I said it before and I'll say it again. You come for the football, you stay for Lorne's history lessons. We love to see it. And we're going to hear more history later in the show. I'm sure you're going to have more in store for us. We'll flip the page on that. But we have one more game we want to talk about. Woodhaven beat Southgate Anderson 49-21 to improve to 6-2. But you guys get this. Senior running back Devin Henry had 294 yards and 6 rushing touchdowns on Friday night. And then Saturday, he announced he's committed to Ferris State. Nice. So just a big couple of days there for Devin. That's awesome for him. And
he's got such a great name. His name is just good. Spelled great.
The whole works. Devin, shout out to you for a great name.
Yeah, shout out to you, Devin.
But Woodhaven now remains in first place in the league. So that was a big game to win, and we'll see how they do moving forward as well. And that'll bring us right into our top 20 rankings, sponsored by Alta Equipment Company. And we had some shakeup in the top 5 with some wins and losses this week. So looking at your screen, coming in at number 1, Belleville, number 2, De La Salle, number 3, Adams, number 4, West Bloomfield. Jumping into the top 5, we got number 5, Macomb, Dakota. And then King dropped to number 11 after Cass Tech beat them 28-14 to win the PSL title. Now, Devin, what do you see in this Cass Tech team?
I mean, they are talented. Let me first, since we're talking about King Cass, there's no way I'm not going to get this in. DeQuan Finn, who played at King, beat Cass before, lost Cass before, won state championship, Mr. Football. 7 touchdowns. 7 touchdowns in one game. Was down 21-0 against the last year's runner-up in the MAC, Kent State, and then went 7 touchdowns. His first coming on a rush that was 4th and I think 21 or something, or 3rd and 21 or something like that. Quarterback draw for a touchdown, and then from there, just throwing touchdowns over and over. Go watch the highlights. It's amazing. He went to King. That's why I'm telling you that.
And whatever that quarterback award is, that national award, he is
Davey O'Brien.
Yes, the Davey O'Brien. He is now in the top 10.
At Toledo. I mean, it just doesn't happen. I'm just telling you, DeQuan Finn here from our state.
Yes.
Dominant.
And here in this studio received his Mr. Football Award.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Given to him by Big Play Slay.
Yes, he did.
Hungry Howie spokesman at the time.
0 turnovers, 7 touchdowns.
There's some more history for you, Sid.
I mean, just history all over the place.
I knew it was coming.
He made history, the most touchdowns by a single player in the history of Toledo football. So congratulations to him. Play for King. Now move forward. King didn't fare as well as DeQuan did this weekend. They lost to Cass Tech. And we talked about it. We said this might be the year where they'll be able to split it. Where I don't know. This Cass Tech team is a lot better than they have proven to be, that they've shown, and the thing is, they continue to get better every week. And we talked about in the first matchup, the young freshman and the impact he'd have. He had some impact, but a lot of it was them, and when I say them, I mean King, exposing him for a young player. They weren't able to do as much this next matchup. And let's just talk about him on the season. Corey Sadler, a freshman, 14 years old, 19 touchdowns. And 4 passing, 3 rushing, 7 receiving, 1 fumble recovery for a touchdown, a kickoff return for a touchdown, 2 punt returns for a touchdown. I mean, this kid is everywhere. And in the game against King, where he needed it most, because if they don't win, they do not have a chance of making the playoffs. Right. He had 3 touchdowns. 1 was called back, a kick return, but he had 2 touchdowns in their 28-14 win. So those are touchdowns that were needed, and they came from, quite frankly, probably the youngest player on their team. And now they get a chance to, against Brother Rice, solidify themselves and most likely get into the playoffs with a win. I think they're the scariest team in the playoffs for Division I. They are a team you do not want to see, because they're figuring out who they are. They're figuring out what they want to do on offense. Their defense has vastly improved. And their quarterback, he brought out a new set of legs against King that he just hadn't showed before. And they had fits trying to get him to the ground. And if he can play like that, the freshman can play like that, and their defense can continue to play, they are going to be a tough out in Division I. Yeah,
I want to see them make the playoffs, because I just think with the power structure as it is, and you look at our top 5, it's Belleville, it's Rochester Adams, it's West Bloomfield, and it's Macomb Dakota. Those are the power teams, and you could throw in some caveats, some Chippewa Valleys or some Romeos and some other teams that could definitely make a run. But, man, I want to see Cass Tech in this mix, because you're right. I think they're scary right now. Obviously, they have to beat Brother Rice. That's a challenge, and we've seen it in history. Yeah. We have seen teams who have everything set up for them. All they have to do is win, and they don't. Mm-hmm. So we're going to really see the mettle of what they're made of this week. Yeah. But that was a huge win. I was actually, when we were seeing the updates in the studio, I was very surprised, and I was like, okay. Yeah. Technicians are here. Right.
To your point, it's always important when a team peaks at this point, their momentum is flowing and the rhythm is going. But I have to give both of you guys credit, because your prediction last show was actually right. Mm-hmm. No offense, but you guys have been a little.
We've been off.
It's been a toss-up.
Well, when you have the courage to make predictions,
yes,
that's usually what happens. Sometimes you're wrong.
That's right.
And that's why we get paid the big bucks.
There you go.
Because sometimes we're right.
Yeah. Quiet down over there. All right. So, Lorne, in Division II, we have Mona Shores. They're getting into the mix here in the rankings.
Yes. So Division II, again, is a little bit open. This year. We thought De La Salle was unbeatable, but we've seen that they can lose. So Division II, I think, is pretty open. I'm going to say it right now. Don't sleep on the Sailors. Yes, they lost to Rockford in week 2 or week 3, 31-27. Really close game. Yeah. Rockford is Division I. They're undefeated. We have them ranked number 10 in the state. The Rams are good. So is Muskegon Mona Shores. They are 7-1. They have scored nearly 350 points this season, which is impressive. They've given up less than 100 total. So we're talking 8 weeks, less than 100 points total. That's doing it on defense. And other than Forest Hills Central, I don't see anything stopping the Sailors in Division II.
Is Brady Rose back?
No, he is not.
Sure.
He
Seems
is not.
Like he's back.
So So I think right now, I believe they will advance. This is what I'm going to talk about prediction.
Ah, yes, here we go. Drum roll for this one.
Call it right now. I believe that they will advance to the Division II state semifinals for the 4th time in the last 5 years. I think they're that locked in.
Wow. Wow. Talk about where a team's reaching their peak. This might be a team that's getting up there and still climbing. So we'll see how
You know what? I'm making a prediction too. I think Cash Tech will make the playoffs, which is ridiculous because they, it seems like they shouldn't. Yeah.
I don't make predictions. We all know that.
Standing on the table about it. But that's amazing because the turnover, right? You had Brady Rose for those years, and the way Brady Rose even got his opportunity way back when he did, they thought that everything was over, and it seems like once you start to count them out, that's when they start to roll. So I think that prediction should come true.
When a team loses early, we see that a lot of times. We're like, we kind of knock them off the pedestal. Maybe they're not who we thought they were. And granted, the OK Conference overall has not been fantastic this season. But again, gave Rockford all they could handle. They've just kind of marched through their competition, good or bad. And again, outside of Forest Hill Central, who's really good, and we had them in our top 20, that's who they might face, who might be their one stumbling block in the playoffs. I think they roll after that.
Remember DeQuan Finn, speaking about DeQuan Finn, his King team lost early to Muskegon that year. They won the state championship, and then they went on to, go on and beat them. They lost to Cass in that season too. Yeah. So just because you lose, we as the media, we knock you down. But, it's not about us. It's about how you go and perform on the field. You have to play the game. And like we talked about at the top of the show, the playoffs are a lot different than the regular season.
And the Sailors are a tough team. I think they're built for cold weather games and things of that nature where they can just grind it out.
Yeah, you look at our top 5. 3 of them all lost early in the season, and they're finding themselves too. So
yeah, it makes you better in a lot of cases.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting down the stretch here.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for some Mr. Football talk, presented, of course, by our friends at Hungry Howie's. And joining me, as he is every week, Sean Belize. All right, Sean, we have made a change this week. CJ Carr is coming out of the Mr. Football race. I know there's a lot of fans out there who still feel he should be in, but that's okay. Understand that this is the nature of the competition. Another quarterback is going in, and this is a team that's undefeated.
Yeah, 8-0. What a great story the Rockford Rams have been, and they are being led by their fantastic quarterback, Matt Vandenhout. How about Vandenhout? 2 more touchdowns last week. He's got 20 touchdowns passing on the season. Does it with his arm. Obviously, the yards and the touchdowns will show that. Does it with his legs as well. He's added 6 touchdowns on the ground. And oh, by the way, isn't it amazing how this works itself out, folks? We had 2 of our top 10 going head-to-head last week, 2 going head-to-head this week as well. Huge game with Caledonia and Rockford, so you get to see 2 of the best and 2 fantastic teams going at it. 'Tis the season, Lorne. Not only do you get the great action, but you get these studs going mano a mano each week. So, Mac, welcome to the list. Very deserving addition to our list, Lorne.
All right, it's always great when we could have some West Side representation here on the list. Long overdue. Congratulations to Mac. We actually had 2 games last week that had Mr. Football candidates going head-to-head, and so we'll have it this week between Rockford and Caledonia. We can't wait for that one. We'll see how it turns out. Just to let you guys know, we want you to continue to vote at statechampsnetwork.com. We've got a doozy. Coco Ban and Samaj Morgan, over 25,000 votes each. Just a few hundred separating them. It's going back and forth. It is a war to settle the score. We'll see how that one pans out. Next week, we'll freeze our top 10. So the top 10 will have no more changes. So this weekend is the last weekend where we can evaluate and see if anybody deserves to go on or come off. So get out there and vote. It's very important. Do it at statechampsnetwork.com. We'll talk next week. Entering its 26th year of excellence, applications are being accepted right now for the Detroit Athletic Club Foundation's Michigan Male and Female High School Athlete of the Year Awards. Not everyone qualifies, so listen closely. If you are a recognized first-team All-State athlete in a sport or projected to be one this school year, if you have at least a cumulative 3.0 GPA, and if you have demonstrated leadership through the school or as a community volunteer, we want you to apply. 6 male and 6 female student athletes will be nominated, with each being awarded $1,000 of college scholarship money. The winners will receive $5,000 each. The 26th Michigan High School Athlete of the Year Awards will take place at the incredible Detroit Athletic Club in downtown Detroit the evening of Monday, June 5th, and streamed live on the State Champs Sports Network. Nomination applications will be accepted through Monday, March 6th, and this is important. You cannot be nominated if you don't apply. Download the application today at dacathleteoftheyear.com. That's dacathleteoftheyear.com.
Hi, I'm Laura Ramus with DMC Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine with today's Game Changers Pop Quiz. True or false, should high school athletes try and stay in peak physical condition all year long? The answer is false. The natural world is governed by rhythms, and one of the most fundamental rhythms of all is activity followed by rest. After activity, we eventually need to rest and recuperate, and then that allows us to successfully fulfill another activity. The same is true for athletics. If you want to reach a new peak, either in training or in your competition, you need to understand your body works best when you allow it to ebb and flow with its natural activity, rest, activity, rhythm. You can't perform at your best at all time, but you can be your best when it really counts. To accomplish this, plan out your training and rest times for the whole year ahead of time. Base this off of your long-term goals and your key competitions.
Do you have a sports injury, or are you just looking to take your game to the next level? Then go where the pros go. DMC Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine. For immediate care, call 313-910-9328 or visit dmc.org/gamechanger. All right, you know what time it is. It's time to talk. The State Champs Anvil Award presented again by our friends at Hungry Howie's. You know that this pink box means every purchase you make in October goes to breast cancer research, so do it often. Enjoy a Hungry Howie's pizza today. All right, so as you will see now, Tim Beckler is not here this week. Coach is on vacation for a little bit, so another valued member of the State Champs Anvil and Mr. Football Selection Committee is Scott Bernstein. Of course, he does the State Champs Super 20 rankings, been doing them all season long, and has just been doing an outstanding job for State Champs, as he has for years and years.
So it's a labor of love.
And we appreciate Bernie and everything he brings to the table. But we've got a shakeup this week, and 2 guys are falling off. Kings Jonathan Slack and Brother Rice's Eric Doherty are no longer going to be in the competition. We have 2 guys who have played their way in, and Scott is here to reveal them both.
Yeah, very well deserving. Both these guys pack quite a punch. We're talking Conor McGregor, Canelo Alvarez type of punches. Let's start at Redford Union. Jeremiah Alston Jackson, 6'2", 210-pound outside linebacker, also plays the Viper spot, safety. He is, spreading 24-karat magic all over the field this year. Just a freak of nature of an athlete, putting up monster stats. 112 tackles, 21 sacks through 8 games. He's trending towards the MHSAA single-season sack record. The number, I believe, is 26 or 25. Officially, Nick Perry from King had 36 unofficially, so we'll see where Alston Jackson ends up at the end of the season. But Union's undefeated, and a lot of that has to do with Alston Jackson. He's going to Central Michigan. Let's move over to the OAA Red. Kavanaugh Ditton, one of the most underrated defensive players in the state. This guy plays football like he was shot out of a cannon. He's a bull in a china shop of a middle linebacker, just so rugged, smart, and instinctive, sideline to sideline. He's trending towards becoming Clarkston's all-time single-season tackling leader. 96 wrap-ups, 6 sacks, so much heart and soul. captaining that defense. Clarkston's 6-2, and they're the type of team that could easily be 8-0, and I wouldn't be shocked if they make a long run in the state playoffs.
Yeah, they have been trending upwards. So he is joining Cole Dellinger on the list now. So Clarkston with a pair of players. And again, this competition is rounding out. So basically what that means is next week we're going to freeze our top 10. So this weekend is the last time that we're going to get a chance to evaluate any new talent that could come in or guys who have played their way back into the competition. We're going to freeze the top 10, and then we will work our way into the playoffs where eventually we will get to our final four. We've got a great voting contest going on right now. Dylan Senda from Dearborn Divine Child, he has been racking it up. He is the vote leader. He has been for many, many weeks. Brandon Davis Swain has got a good contingent behind him, and there are others, so keep voting. It's important as we move our way further into the competition. But again, as far as the Anvil Award goes, the big game performance, the team success, level of competition, all that's going to play out here now as the playoffs get going, and we are really going to see who rises to the top. So, Scotty, thank you so much.
Thank you. Can I just throw out two names of guys that I think are knocking on the door, might be able to sneak in very late? Over at Dakota, Tyler Harper, their linebacker, playing so well. And then over at Novi, a real diamond in the rough, Nico Krall, over 100 tackles. They call him the wrecking ball, Nico Krall, and there's a reason for that.
All right, guys, so we still got a few on the watch list, so head over to statechampsnetwork.com. Click on the Anvil Award banner right there on the homepage. Vote, and vote as often as you can.
Well, week 9, we are going to have another big slate of games coming up here. And actually, our overtime show is going to be on Saturday. So that means more room for more games to cover on Friday night. So we have 10 games that we're going to be at. I'm not going to list all of them because that's a lot to go through. Devin, one game we want to talk about in preview for our Sponsored by Menard segment. We're going to talk about Davison taking on Lapeer at Lapeer and their gray field they got going.
Yeah, the gray field's really cool. I don't think it's going to help them in this one, though. But the gray field is cool. I think Davison goes into this game pretty confident, especially the way that they played all season. But for Lapeer, they've kind of unraveled a little bit where you got Clarkston. You kind of get dominated by Clarkston. Yeah. And then you got Davison rolling in, right, with a lot on the line, right? Saginaw Valley League red title. But then if you win this game, lose the game, whatever the case may be, you got to see Clarkston again, possibly in the playoffs in the first round. So I think it's been tough sledding for Lapeer here to end the season, but hopefully they can try to pull out a win against Davison and then try to make some adjustments because that game against Clarkston was not close.
Yeah, Davison lost to Catholic Central, and then they've found their way throughout the season.
And we mentioned power teams. Davison, one of those teams that we have to consider in Division I.
Funny story with Lapeer's junior quarterback, Zach Olenizak. His last name is spelled so weird, but I pronounced it wrong all last season. Yeah, it's not your fault. It's just there's a lot of letters in there, and there's a J.
You know what? Even though it was you that mispronounced it, we can blame Lauren, remember?
We could.
Let's bring that back. Blame Lauren.
But I pronounced it wrong all season. He called me out on Twitter. He direct messaged me.
Good. That's
good.
good.
And then gave me how to pronounce it. And I was like, perfect.
That's
I'll
absolutely
never
right.
mess it up.
Send those phonetic spellings if you want your name said right.
Zach, I appreciate you for that one. But no, this will be a good matchup between Lapeer and Davison. But Lauren, we have another good matchup. Yeah. Rockford and Caledonia.
That's right. OK Red title on the line. I mentioned Rockford in the previous segment as they're the only team to beat Muskegon Mona Shores, right? Mac Vandenhout is now in the Mr. Football race. We broke that earlier on the show today. So the Rams are undefeated, but if you really look at their strength of schedule, there just haven't been a lot of good teams on the west side. I kind of alluded to that, that reside on the Rockford schedule. Just an off year. East Grand Rapids, Holland, West Ottawa have 5 losses. Hudsonville has 6 losses. Grand Haven has 7 losses. But with that said, East Kentwood, Granville are most likely playoff teams. Now they've got Caledonia. So you almost guarantee these two teams will play again in the playoffs, being Rockford and Caledonia. So this is going to be very interesting. It's week 9. Yes, the red title's on the line, but there's not a whole lot as far as what's going to affect them. But you've got Mason McKenzie at quarterback for Caledonia, another Mr. Football candidate. So we've got one of those head-to-head matchups again happening. Strength of schedule is a factor with the Fighting Scots too, I think, because they play a lot of the same teams that Rockford does. But again, winner gets the championship. But again, these two are going to meet in the playoffs, and that's going to be the real matchup. So we'll see what happens week 9. I can't call it, but they're going to do it again in a few weeks. So
round 1 is a go. We'll see round 2 after.
And now, the moment we've all been waiting for, the Bally Sports football game of the week reveal.
Glad you actually didn't say the Football Fridays game of the week, because it's actually not a Friday game of the week this week. So, but the KLA conference is going to take center stage, and
The Claw!
That's right. And
Try to say it fast. KLAA.
The Claw!
And the game will actually air on the Bally Sports Detroit main channel this week. So getting all the love since it's on a Saturday. We'll have a Saturday afternoon special between number 14 Brighton and number 1 Belleville for the Conference Championship. That's right. And immediately following the game, you're going to get a chance to watch Sydney on the OT show this week. So
sorry, I was caught off guard. So he was caught off guard. That caught me off guard.
So
that was good.
My thoughts on this game. Both are undefeated. Brighton has played the tougher schedule, I would say. Bulldogs have played great defense all season long, only giving up more than 14 points once, and that is all season. They haven't played Belleville since they beat them in the state semifinals in 2019, for those of you who remember that. The Tigers, on the other hand, have scored 423 points this season. It's ridiculous. Only twice have they scored less than 49 points. And they put up, in those two, they put up 41 on Novi and 42 on previously unbeaten Livonia Franklin last week. Wow. So just too much firepower. Belleville's number 1, should score more points than Brighton, but I said that. You want to talk about history. Looking at the 2019 preview into the state semifinals, I figured that Belleville, because they were on a roll, would roll.
It was exactly the same thing, essentially.
Right.
It's been the same.
They only scored 19 points, and they lost to Brighton, so who knows?
Well, in the games like this, Brighton's plan has to be run the ball, possess the ball, use every second on the clock at every turn, keep the team off the field, and then get some lucky bounces or play really good defense like they play. Obviously, I haven't seen a team like Belleville, but if they play good defense and hold on to that football, that's the recipe, and they can go out and win this game.
Right. For the most part, Brighton this season, except for 2 games, they handled their opponents as well. There's just 2 games that were close. I mean, they still got it done, though. So at the end of the day, you're still in the win column, so it doesn't
Colin McKernan
and
making a couple
Belleville hasn't
plays.
even been close to being tested, so they have not been in a position that they're going to have to, come from behind or something of that nature. So we'll see. But again, they've got the flow going. They just put up points. They've got athletes everywhere.
Well, that's going to be a really good game, along with all the other games we're going to be at Friday night. So you can see all of those games on our overtime show, which I guess we can't call it Football Friday.
No.
But it is. It's just a special edition of Football Friday's Overtime, powered by State Champs.
On Saturday.
On Saturday.
And then what happens on Sunday?
Selection Sunday.
That's right.
Oh, yeah. We love a
it's
Selection
Sunday.
Sunday.
It's a high school weekend just filled with
High
great
school
games.
stuff.
Yes, exactly. Highlights, and then, of course, the guys will be gathered around their televisions as they find out.
Nestled around their fireplaces
and
and televisions.
Exactly.
That'd be good.
It's a fun weekend all around for high school football, and we'll have you covered with all of it right here.
I think it's great. And again, the playoffs start next week, so that's when the rubber hits the road. So we'll find out who the matchups are this weekend, and we'll talk about it next week right here on Extra Point.
State Champs Extra Point is powered by Lawrence Technological University. Visit L2athletics.com and recruit yourself. Extra Point is also brought to you by the Michigan High School Athletic Association, promoting the value and values of educational athletics. The Michigan Army National Guard, a proud partner of the MHSAA. The Detroit Medical Center Physical Therapy and Sports Medicine Pros. Visit dmc.org/Gamechangers. Nominations are being accepted now for the Detroit Athletic Club Foundation's Michigan High School Athlete of the Year Awards. 6 females and 6 males will win a $1,000 college scholarship and be invited to the DAC in downtown Detroit on June 5th, 2023 to find out who will be this year's Athlete of the Year. Seniors only, and you can't be nominated if you don't apply. Find out more and download the application at dacathleteoftheyear.com. Alta Equipment Company, Michigan's #1 construction equipment provider with over 40 brands. Get the right equipment for your project every time. Hungry Howie's Pizza, famous for flavor. Feiger Law, nobody knows the law like we do. Menards, save big money on all your home improvement needs. And by the Southeast Michigan Ford dealers, think Ford first.